This video will show you how to data mine the main grid by narrowing your search results using various filter options. This video assumes you know how to do a search and know the basics of using filters. Portions of this video also assume you know how to modify what columns are shown on the main grid using grid style files. Tutorials on these topics are available at lpdinfo.com. Here's a quick overview. We're going to start off with a quick example, and then we're going to show you how to access the filter criteria window. Then we'll get into mathematical and word expressions, using multiple filters, and how to delete filters. So let's start off with a quick example, and then we will get into the various aspects of data mining using filters. First thing, load the main grid with some data. In this example, we are going to right-click any row in the gas cum column and select Add Filter Criteria. After right-clicking on the column, click Add Filter Criteria in the pop-up menu. You will see the Filter Criteria window. Click in the second field, which is in the upper middle column of the Filter Criteria window. And because we want to see leases with gas cums greater than 10 million MCF, we're going to select the greater than expression from the drop-down list. In the third field, which is in the upper right column of the Filter Criteria window, type in the number 10 million. Then click the Add button. Now the main grid only shows leases which have gas cums greater than 10 million MCF. You will notice in the highlighted area of the Search Criteria window that our filter is listed at the bottom of the search criteria list. Now, let's take a look at how to access the filter criteria window. There are various ways to bring up the filter criteria window. As we saw in our earlier example, you can right-click on a row on the main grid, and then select Add Filter Criteria from the pop-up menu. Another way is to click the Add Filter Criteria icon shown here. You can click the Data pull-down menu and then click Add Filter Criteria. Now let's look in the Filter Criteria window. You will see three fields: Index, Expression, and Criteria. The first field, the index, is where you select the index value you want to filter. This can be any row from the main grid, such as lease name, FP date, gas cum, and more. The next field is the expression or operand field. This is where you select the expression or operand you want applied to the filter. The expressions allow you to find data that is less than, greater than, equal to the criteria in the third field of the filter criteria window. There are also special expressions such as begins with and does not contain. These are just a few of the expressions available, and we will explain more of them in the next section of this video. The third field is where you enter your criteria. Depending on the index used, the criteria can be a number or text. Numbers are used with such indexes as gas cum, FP date, last 3 oil, and others. Text, or words, are used with such index items as operator, lease name, county, and others. These will be covered later in the video. In the first example of this video, the index was set to gas cum. The criteria was set to 10 million, and the expression was set to greater than. Now that we've looked at how to access the filter criteria window and what the components of the filter criteria window are, let's take a look at using mathematical and word expressions. Mathematical and word expressions are at the heart of being able to data mine your search results. Let's take a closer look at some of the various expressions of the filter criteria window. When data mining, there are several expressions that can be used to filter your search results. Let's take a look at the various expressions available. This symbol is used to find cases where the index value is greater than the specified criteria. This symbol is used to find cases where the index value is less than the specified criteria. To find cases where the index value is greater than or equal to the specified criteria, use this symbol. Or to find cases where it is less than or equal to the specified criteria, you would use this symbol. Now, to find cases where the index value is an exact match to the specified criteria, you would use the equal sign. If you would like to eliminate an item from your grid, you can use the do not match expression, which will remove every instance on the grid where the criteria does not match the specified criteria. Now let's look at a few word expressions. Begins with is used when you want to find index values that begin with a certain set of letters. If you would like to find index values that contain a set of letters anywhere in the index field, use the contains option. You can also remove items off the grid by using the does not contain option, which will remove cases where the index value does not contain any of the letters specified in the criteria. Now let's go into a little more detail. Here's the greater than expression, which is used to show values higher than what is specified in the criteria field. In our first example of the video, the greater than expression was used to filter the main grid to show only leases where gas cum was greater than 10 million MCF. This less than expression is used to show values less than what is specified in the criteria field. The less than expression could have been used to filter the main grid to show only leases where gas cum is less than 10 million MCF in our first example. You could also use the less than expression to work on criteria values that are containing letters. If you set the index to lease name, the expression to less than, and the criteria to L, the main grid will not show any leases that begin with the letters L through Z. In fact, most of the expressions in the filter criteria window can be used with both numeric and alphanumeric criteria values. This next expression, the greater than or equal to expression, is used to show values greater than and also equal to what is specified in the criteria field. Let's look at an example of using this. In this example, we want to see leases with 11 wells or more. We have added a column wells to our grid. If you don't know how to add or remove columns, please view the tutorial on modifying grid style files at lpdinfo.com. Now, right-click any row in the wells column, and then select Add Filter Criteria. In the first field, set the index to wells so that we will be working on the wells column of the main grid. In the second field, choose the greater than or equal to expression. In the third field, enter the number 11. Now, click Add. We have now data mined our main grid to show only leases which have 11 or more wells. Our filter is listed in the Search Criteria window at the bottom of the Search Criteria list. This expression is used to show values less than and also equal to what is specified in the criteria field. In our previous example, we could have chosen instead to see only those leases with 11 or fewer wells by using this expression. Here you see that the main grid has been data mined to show only leases with 11 or fewer wells per lease, and you see the filter shown in the Search Criteria window. The equal expression is used to show cases where the specified criteria is an exact match. This is very useful when filtering on text-based columns in the main grid. Let's take a look at an example of this. Let's data mine the main grid to show only those leases which are active. Right-click any row in the status column and select Add Filter Criteria. In the first field, set the index to status so that we will be working on the status column of the main grid. In the second field, choose the equal to expression, and in the third field, enter the letters ACT, which is the status code for active. Now click Add. Now we have data mined the main grid to show only leases with a status of active, or ACT. Our filter is listed in the Search Criteria window at the bottom of the Search Criteria list. This is used to show values which are not equal to what is specified in the criteria field, or does not match. In our previous example, we could have chosen to view leases which are not active by using the does not match expression. Here we see our main grid has been data mined to show all the leases that are not active. And again, you see the filter criteria listed in the search criteria window. By selecting lease name for the index and does not match for the expression, you can leave the third field blank. This will data mine the main grid to eliminate every instance where the lease name is blank or empty. Now that we have looked at how to use many of the mathematical expressions, let's take a look at using multiple filters. Here we see the main grid has a filter set to gas cum greater than 10 million MCF, shown in the search criteria window at the bottom of the list. We are going to keep this filter, and then we're going to add another one. So right-click anywhere on the main grid, and then select Add Filter Criteria. Now we're going to set our index value to oil cum, our expression to equal, and our criteria field to 0. Now our main grid shows leases where gas cum is greater than 10 million MCF, while at the same time oil cum is 0. You will see both of these listed at the bottom of the search criteria list in the search criteria window. We are going to data mine even further by keeping these two filters and adding another one. So open the filter criteria window again, and this time set the index to status, the expression to equal, and the criteria field to ACT. Now our main grid shows only active leases where gas cum is greater than 10 million MCF and where oil cum is equal to 0. Again, you will see all three of these listed in the search criteria window at the bottom of the list. Another method to show multiple filters is to combine two filters in the filter criteria window. Let's take a quick look. Let's data mine the main grid to show leases which have 5 to 15 wells. Right-click anywhere on the main grid, and then select Add Filter Criteria. Using the AND radio button, we can set two filters at once. Notice that in the first row, the index is set to wells, the expression to less than or equal, and the criteria to 15. In the second row, the index is set to wells, the expression is set to greater than equal, and the criteria is set to 5. Now our main grid shows leases with well counts between 5 and 15, but also including 5 and 15. Let's look at another example of combining filters together in the filter window. Let's set the index to gas cum, the expression to greater than, and the criteria to 50 million. Using the AND radio button, we can select oil cum greater than 200 million. It looks like there are only 2 leases which meet this criteria of both gas cum greater than 50 million and oil cum greater than 200 million. And here we see our filter criteria in the search criteria window. Now let's data mine the main grid to show leases producing with a certain date range. But first, let's narrow our search to just leases operated by XTO Energy in Tarrant County. We will set the operator index to equal XTO Energy Inc., use the AND radio button, and set the county index to equal Tarrant. After we apply this filter, we're going to reopen the filter criteria window and use the index as FP date, which is a grid style item that shows the first production date of a lease, and LP date, which shows the last production date of a lease. Set the filter criteria to match what you see here. Now the main grid shows leases operated by XTO in Tarrant County which have had production only in the year 2003. You could have the main grid show only leases where production stopped before 2006 by using this filter. You could have the main grid show only leases where production began in 1996 by setting this filter. Let's briefly look at using OR in the filter window. In this example, the main grid will be set to show leases with either Walsh, FH Jr. or XTO Energy Inc. as the operator. Now let's look at some word expressions. We want to eliminate leases with XTO as the operator. Notice, however, there are multiple instances of XTO. Some would say XTO Energy Inc., some say XTO Offshore. So let's set the indexed operator in the filter criteria window and set the expression to does not contain, and in the third field enter XTO. This will eliminate every instance where the operator index has XTO anywhere listed in it. You will see now that there are no instances on the main grid where XTO is anywhere in the operator column. Now let's keep this filter and we're going to add another. Open up the filter criteria window and in the first row set the index to county, the expression to equal, and the criteria to Panola. Click the OR radio button and set the second row to index value of county, expression equal, and the criteria to Hemphill. Now our main grid has been data mined to show leases in both Panola and Hemphill counties where XTO is not an operator. This filter makes the main grid show only leases where the operator begins with the letters CHEVRON. It uses the begins with expression. This is very useful. As you can see in our operator column, there are many cases where the index is Chevron, but it may be Chevron USA or Chevron Mid-Continent. By using this, we can capture every case where it begins with chevron. Now we just used the begins with expression. Let's explore the contains expression. This example will have the main grid show leases that contain the word west. Look at our main grid. It does indeed only show cases where the lease name has the word west in it. However, we really only want to see Wayne West Ranch. The problem is sometimes the lease name shows as Wayne West Ranch, and at other time it shows as West, Wayne Ranch. So let's set up a filter where the index value is lease name, the expression is contains, and the criteria is the word Wayne. Now, the main grid shows every instance where Wayne and West are anywhere in the lease name field. We could have done the same thing by using one filter and the end radio button where lease name contains West and lease name contains Wayne, instead of using two separate filters. As you can see, the main grid would again show every instance where Wayne and West are anywhere in the lease name column. Now, let's take a look at how to delete filters. Here we see in our search criteria window several filters set up, and you can use as many filters as you wish. In fact, you can filter on any grid style column. It's all up to your imagination. But sometimes we need to delete some filters that we've added. To eliminate a filter, click on that filter in the search criteria window and press the delete key on your computer keyboard. Instead of using the delete key, you could have clicked on the remove criteria icon, or you could have clicked on the data pull-down menu and then clicked remove criteria. Now sometimes you may set some filters that are beyond the perimeters of the grid or that don't apply to what is on the grid, and the main grid may go blank. Now if this happens, deleting filters can help restore your grid.